Okay, right. Next tutorial. This one is on 3.1. Explain why war broke out in the north of New Zealand between Māori and British after the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi. Okay, so listen up. Hihi. Okay, Hihi was one of the leading northern chiefs in the Bay of Islands, and after 1840, after the treaty had been signed, he became unhappy with the treaty because he did not feel his chiefly authority and the chiefly authority of other chiefs, for that matter, was being guaranteed by the government. They felt that the Māori version of the treaty, which gave them tino rangotirotanga, they didn't think it was being respected. He was and evidence of this is, and you can say this in your answer, Hihi and other chiefs were unhappy with the British rules being applied to them and not the Māori rules. So British rules, new rules that were introduced that came from British law were given what we call precedence over chiefly authority or Māori rules. Some examples of this where Māori weren't allowed to cut down trees in certain areas. Trees are really important because they cut the trees down and traded the wood. It was quite a good way of them making money. Hihi and other chiefs were also unhappy with the shift of the capital. So New Zealand's capital in 1840 was at a place called Kororareka, or in English, Russell. Okay, they weren't happy with the capital at Kororareka / Russell being moved to Auckland in 1841. They felt that was, though they weren't consulted, and Hihi in particular was noted for being disappointed because it took away some of his mana. Up until while the capital was in Kororareka, he and some of his chiefs were able to have that direct conversations with the government moving away without any consultation. They weren't all that happy. Another example, this is probably an example of the rules. One of the rules which were put in place, Māori had to pay custom duties for goods that they traded because they'd been making good money trading goods, timber, potato, which they've been growing. All of a sudden they had to pay like a tax to the government, and it was like, well, hello, that's not what we felt we signed up for. So they were unhappy about that. And have they expressed their unhappiness? Well, Hihi cut down the British flagpole in Kororareka in 1844. As this was the symbol, he cut it down because there's this big flag on top of the big government building that they'd been put up in Kororareka was the British flag, and he felt by cutting it down, it was making a statement. And he did that on a number of occasions, and it was a statement saying that we're not happy with your authority. What about our authority? As was guaranteed under their understanding of the Treaty of Waitangi. Okay. Then, after the flagpole being cut down and the British flag was put back up, the next stage of their protest, Hihi's protest, was to, in March 1845, attack Kororareka and burn it. So Hihi and his warriors on the 11th of March, 1845, they attacked and burned the town of Kororareka. Now, if you're having trouble spelling Kororareka, you could spell it as Russell. Okay? And it is in the booklet I've given you. Now, there were some other long-term causes for war between Māori and Pākehā, and I want to mention them now, and I want you to put these down. I want you to identify these. The government, after the treaty was signed, the British government, the colonial government, the government wanted to replace Māori chiefly authority with British authority or sovereignty. So only one set of rules was followed. And by doing that, it would push aside the Māori version of the treaty and just focus on the English version of the treaty. That was a long-term cause for conflict. Another long-term cause for conflict was that the government was expected to make land available for settlers. And you can write this, and this is really important because by 1858, that's 1858, okay, there were more settlers, more Pākehā in New Zealand than Māori. But Māori had stopped selling land, in particular in the North Island. They'd stopped selling land. They wanted to hold on to their land. Meanwhile, all these settlers were piling into Auckland and Wellington and New Plymouth, and there was pressure being put on the government to get more land, make it available so they can sell it to these settlers on the cheap, and the settlers could set up farms and settle New Zealand. But Māori were refusing to sell their land because they didn't want to sell it, and that created this pressure put on the government, and that pressure blew in 1859 to 1860 in the Taranaki. The government decided to force a land sale, and that led to a war in Taranaki. And then 3 years later, in 1863, the government invaded the Waikato to destroy the King movement, destroy the Waikato iwi, destroy their chiefly authority, and open the land up for settlement. And that was the other long-term reason for the war. Okay, so here we go. I will talk again soon. Thank you.